Primoz Roglic igniting a flurry of first at the finish. First Tour stage win of his career. First Slovenian to win a stage at the Tour. And the first win this year for Lotto Jumbo. Rigoberto Urán coming in second, but the man in yellow, Chris Froome, started the day up 18 seconds. He's now up 27 over Urán and also Bardet. Marcel Kittel looks banged up because of an early crash. Got back on his bike, as you can see, but he abandoned today. Won 5 stages this year, but his tour is now finished. But let's keep it with Primoz Roglic. Was ahead by himself for a while and found a way to keep it.
Found the early breakaway. It was an outside chance to break. This is his crash in the breakaway. Just ran off the road and got into some soft sand there, but picked himself up quickly. Got back into the breakaway with the other riders who had been there since the beginning with him, and then just started rampaging on all the climbs. Bauke Mollema is trying to control the proceedings, getting some King of the Mountain points also early in the day. He moved into second place in the race for the polka dots, just absolutely stomping on the pedals, not sparing the horses. Alberto Contador catches. Roglic does not have any fear of attacking on Telegraph and Galibier, and this is an incredible solo, especially he spent so long off the front of the peloton. Really remarkable ride, and he showed fantastic descending skills on an absolutely terrifying descent off the Galibier. Once you get to the Lodere, it's a little bit more reasonable, a little bit straighter road with less precipitous cliffs on each side. Roglic using all of the aerodynamic advantage that he could find, would never be caught, and all the way down the Lodere to the finish line in Serge Chevalier, using his time trialing power to hold off none other than Chris Froome, Rigoberto Urán, and Romain Bardet for a great stage win. First for Lotto Jumbo. They have been looking for a stage win all tour. Groenewegen couldn't deliver. George Bennett and Robert Haesink are out, and this is a huge result.
First for Slovenia as well.
That's right. History in the Tour de France today for Primoz Roglic. Team Sky, the juggernaut on the front. Landa's there, Mikel Nieves there, Bardet and Villermoz are presumably asking about attacking, but it was Dan Martin that went on the offensive. That put the end of Kwiatkowski's work to rest, and it took a long chase to bring Dan Martin back into the field. But look at this, is the effort that Kwiat put in to control the tempo. Absolutely glued to the road. Everybody dedicated to Chris Froome. Then Barguil, and Bardet on the attack. Warren Barguil needs to get some King of the Mountain points because Primoz Roglic at this point is just about to go over the top and get maximum points in the King of the Mountain competition. Bardet again on the attack.
Yeah, Bardet continues to attack. Really, everything's been softened up by Dan Martin before this. A lot of wind. Bardet attacks again. And as we were talking about a little bit earlier, this is high altitude. It's hard to keep on attacking. Everyone's on the limit. It's a matter of who could keep on backing it up. And with every acceleration, Aru just kept on coming out the back, along with Yates and Menkes. After a few of these, Yates was never to see the front ever again, and Aru was not so far behind him. Look at the face on Aru, just everything he's got, trying to get his body up and over the Galibier. Bringing himself back yet again. But a couple more accelerations to come, he would not see the front again.
Dan Martin again on the offensive. Watch Froome's cadence here. He's carved up, he's well hydrated. He looks at his teammate Landa to see if he can respond, and figures he might as well respond himself. Landa does collect himself. There goes Froome right after Bardet and Urán. Now that put Dan Martin into trouble. This acceleration by Romain Bardet caught Serge Powell. Passed him so quickly that Powell's got dropped. Contador, courageous ride, but was caught by a streaking Warren Barguil going for KOM points at the top of the Galibier. He gets third in that competition to give himself a pretty massive lead. 49 points now ahead of second place Primoz Roglic in the KOM points jersey. Darwin Adapuma from the early breakaway caught just at the start of the descent. Chris Froome going to the front. That's the best way to do your own descent. Talking to Bardet, let's work together. Aru is dropped. You can move up. Dan Martin chasing now with Fabio Aru. That's the only reason they stayed even reasonably close. Aru had been doing the tempo from that group, doing the chase, and was constantly losing time. And when he finally hooked up with Dan Martin, he started to reduce the deficit, and Simon Yates just continuing to lose time on a pretty rough day for the Orica rider.
Londa's still there at the front, the teammate of Chris Froome, leading out the sprint. Like Bob was saying before, having the luxury of having a teammate still with only 5 contenders still left in the race, one of them being your teammate, things look pretty good. One of the guys actually completely out of the GC. So really, these top 3 guys going for bonus seconds here. It's still so tight. Only 27 seconds separates the top 3 right now, with second and third more or less tied. Oran takes the first bonus seconds, and then Chris Froome the third. Dan Martin, easily the fastest guy out of this group, would have been the fastest out of the front group as well, but it doesn't matter, as he more or less comes in about 30 seconds behind that Chris Froome group. And then after that, another 30 seconds back to Yates in the white jersey. Menkes making some time back up on Simon Yates, now sitting 2 minutes and 28 seconds back on the young rider classification. Alberto Contador more or less lit this race on fire, paying for those early efforts.
Serge Powell across the line from the early breakaway, and Simon Yates having a rough day. We don't often see that in the mountains, conceding some time in the white jersey competition. Look at the speed, though, of Rigoberto Urán for second place. Froome not bad either, coming around Bardet for the last time bonus of 4 seconds. Froome loses 2 seconds to Rigoberto Urán, but gains 2 seconds on Romain Bardet. So good riding by Froome, but pretty solid sprint by Rigoberto Urán. Still plenty of fuel in the tank for Urán.
Let's back it up way to the start of the race.
This is the early miles of the race when the breakaway is trying to get established. That's Steve Cummings tumbling to the left of the road, but here is the right side of the road, and Kittel in the green jersey, just doesn't seem like anybody takes him out. There's no obstructions. He just goes down like a ton of bricks. The bigger they come, the harder they fall, and Marcel Kittel went down hard. Took a long time for him to get going again. Damaged his shoe, damaged his bicycle, tore the right side of his body to shreds, and a really tough way to start an incredibly brutal stage. Barguil involved in that crash as well. Kittel did get started again. He did chase back up to the peloton. He spent a lot of time at the race doctor's car, calling to his team car.
Frustration mounted. Marcel Kittel waving the other team cars ahead. Had to change his shoe out. Sometimes when you crash really hard, you could break a cleat. This time it looks like something in either his cleat or sometimes even the boa, which makes the shoe get tighter, will break if you hit the pavement the wrong way. Either way, he had to change his shoe, hold on the doctor's car, getting that shoulder looked at, whole right-hand side of his body. And like you said, Bob, it seemed like he was the first one to go down. It's really hard to differentiate himself and some of the Cannondale riders, but it did look like a little bit darker green. It looked like Marcel was one of the first guys to go down, and you don't say that too often with sprinters. These are some of the best handlers, bike handlers in the peloton. But like you say, did get back on the bike, regain right into the lead group, right on Chris Froome's wheel.
And in the meantime, his direct competitor for the green jersey, Michael Matthews, was in the breakaway, taking points from Thomas de Gent in that first Category 2 King of the Mountain points. And then when it came to the sprint point out on the course, Michael Matthews dusting Thomas de Gent rather easily. De Gent just handing him the 20 points right there. And so at this point, Michael Matthews had moved within 9 points of Marcel Kittel, and so he inherits that jersey because of Kittel abandoning the Tour de France. Just an incredibly rough day, and a pretty tough couple of days for the Quick Step squad. Yeah. Dan Martin gets distance in the crosswinds yesterday, and they lose the green jersey today. So tough 2 days for Quick Step after an incredibly successful opening 2 weeks of the Tour de France.
So true. I'm glad you said that. I mean, you think back a week ago, you would have never thought we'd be talking about this, and Marcel Kittel crashing out And this man right there stomping. And not only him, but his whole entire team. Warren Barguil also falling, crashing in there, but still getting back up. But how deep did this man go into the breakaway? Up in the high mountains. Doesn't get it much harder than the mountains that we crossed today.
All right, stage podiums here for an eventful stage 17. And the man with his hands risen above his head for the first time in that position, Primoz Roglic.
Just started riding his bike 5 years ago. It's hard to imagine. 2016, won a stage in the Giro d'Italia, Italy's Grand Tour, and then this year winning more or less one of the hardest stages in the whole entire Tour de France.
Chris Froome started the day up 18 seconds on Fabio Aru. He ends it up 27 on Rigoberto Urán and also Romain Bardet. 17 stages are done, guys. How major a blow to his rivals did Chris Froome and Sky deliver today? That
was impressive. They dominated the proceedings throughout the day. They set the tempo. They had 2 guys in the finale. Really impressive by Sky. Sort of a soul-crushing performance by Chris Froome, and especially considering how well he time trialed.
Yeah.
So unless you get a massive chunk of time tomorrow on the Izoard, which, to be honest, is not likely.
No, but it's
earned another.
Again, you have to have that faith, just like kind of like the Subway, that something's going to happen. He's going to flat, because that's really the only thing I see happening where he's not going to be at the front. I mean, Chris Froome, fantastic, and like we said earlier, he's the only guy that said, I can't wait for the Alps.
And he'll get one more day in the Alps coming up tomorrow. Polka dot jersey. Best climber continues to be Warren Barguil.
49-point advantage. There's still a number of climbs, but that is pretty much a foregone conclusion. He's also climbing as well as anybody in the Tour de France, in spite of crashing today and getting torn up. Fights his way back into the lead group, attacks them on the Galibier to get 3rd behind Roglic, and I believe it was Darwin Adapuma who went over the last climb, 2nd on the road, but in front of Froome, Urán, Bardet, and Aru. Warren Barguil consolidating that King of the Mountain jersey. 49 points on offer. Double points at the finish tomorrow on the Izoard, so there's 49 points there. 10 points on the previous climb, Col d'Ivoire. That's not mathematically impossible for someone to pass them, but highly unlikely.
Team Sunweb not done on the podium. Bob and Christian praising the efforts moments ago of what they've done, not only for Barguil, but also for Michael Matthews. He's in green because he had been coming on very strong, and also the main reason Marcel Kittel had to abandon today after a crash.
And 9 points would have been separating those men, and now he owns it all by himself. Would have been a good chance that he could have taken it outright against Marcel Kittel. It would have been close either way. But this man had the hot hand coming in the last week of the Tour, being so much stronger. A lot of shades of Peter Sagan in this guy right here.
Maybe next year's green jersey competition that much more interesting with Kittel sprinting well, Michael Matthews so versatile, able to go in the breakaways, get those points. Peter Sagan might have a battle on his hands next year.
And the final jersey, top rider under the age of 25, the white one. Simon Yates still on top, Bob, but a strong afternoon for Louis Meintjes.
Meintjes claws his way back. Neither one of them are great time trialists, so it'll be interesting to see. I think he has enough of an advantage going into the final time trial, but tomorrow, another climb to the finish. White jersey, not a foregone conclusion either.